A man built an empire but couldn't find love. He'd been betrayed before. He didn't trust anyone. He believed that everyone
You are
wanted something
absolutely
from him.
terrible. I can't
His
believe you
money,
said that.
his power, his access. He believed that real love didn't exist, that everyone was selfish, so he decided to test it. He decided to find out the truth once and for all. He gave 3 women, his girlfriend, his assistant, and his housekeeper, unlimited access to his wealth for 3 days. He would see their true colors. He would find out who actually cared about him and who was just using him. What he discovered wasn't what he expected. It wasn't what he deserved. It was something far more beautiful. This is a story about a man who learned that the person he thought was invisible was actually everything he'd been searching for. Before we dive into this incredible story, I need you to do something for me right now. Drop a comment down below and tell me exactly where you are watching from. What city are you in? What country are you watching from? I want to know personally. And if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please hit that subscribe button now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single story. Like this video, share it with your friends and family. These things help more than you could possibly know. Now settle in, because what you are about to hear will show you the true nature of human beings and reveal what really matters in life. The sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, casting long golden streaks across the polished marble floors. The city below buzzed with life and energy, but up here in this high place, everything was still. Everything was quiet. Everything felt empty despite the opulence surrounding every surface. Victor Ashford stood in front of the vast windows, sipping black coffee from a minimalist ceramic mug. He wore a tailored navy suit, unbuttoned at the collar, no tie. He looked perfect on the surface, but his eyes told a completely different story. His eyes revealed fatigue, the fatigue of the soul, the fatigue that comes from years of disappointment and cynicism and the constant weight of suspicion. The world knew Victor Ashford as the technology oracle, the billionaire genius who had revolutionized smart home technology and artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. His name was whispered with envy and admiration in elite circles, but behind the awards and the interviews and the luxury that surrounded him, Victor felt something gnawing at his insides. He felt a hollowness that he could not code his way out of. He felt an emptiness that no amount of money could fill. He felt a loneliness that was so complete and so profound that it had almost become his natural state of being. A gentle voice came from behind him. "Sir, the car is ready." Victor turned slightly. His housekeeper, a woman named Isabel, stood at the edge of the room, not daring to step further without his permission. She wore her usual gray uniform. Her hair was tied in a simple bun. Her eyes were cast downward in a posture of deference and respect. She had worked in his household for 3 years. In all that time, Victor had learned very little about her except that she was reliable, quiet, and possessed a kind of grace that seemed out of place in this cold mansion. He had always appreciated the way she moved through the space with such quiet dignity, but he had never truly seen her. Not really. "Thank you, Isabel," he said with a nod. She disappeared as quietly as she had arrived. Victor sighed deeply and turned back to the glass. He stared out at the city below, where millions of people were living their lives, finding connections, building relationships, creating meaning. He did not need to be at the office today. His executives could handle all the meetings. His assistant could handle all the details. His girlfriend could handle whatever it was that girlfriends handled when they were not with him. No one would care. No one would even notice. He was just a man made of money, nothing more. His phone buzzed. Isabella, his current girlfriend, a stunning woman with platinum blonde hair and a figure that turned heads wherever she went. She had texted him from Miami, sending selfies with heart emoji reactions and messages about how much she missed him. But as Victor read the message, he felt nothing. Not warmth, not excitement, not connection. He felt watched. He felt like a walking vault. He felt like everyone around him was simply waiting for an opportunity to take whatever they wanted from him. A gentle chime interrupted his thoughts. His assistant Veronica had entered the room holding her ever-present tablet computer. "Morning, Victor," she said briskly, tapping the screen with her perfectly manicured fingernails. "I have your briefing here. I cleared your schedule as requested." "Not now, Veronica," Victor said, walking past her. "Clear my schedule for the entire week." "Everything?" she asked, confusion crossing her face. "Yes, everything," Victor replied, his voice carrying a tone of finality. She looked at him with confusion and concern, but she nodded anyway. "Of course," she said quietly. Victor walked into his study and shut the door softly behind him. The study was the only room in the entire penthouse that felt personal. The walls were lined with shelves filled with books on philosophy and psychology and a few worn novels from his childhood. On the desk sat an old photograph of his parents, long gone. His mother had passed away 15 years ago. His father had followed just 5 years later. Victor picked up the photograph and stared at it for a long moment. His mother's gentle face smiled back at him. His father's arm was around her protectively. She had spoken those words to him so many years ago. "Marry a woman who builds, not just a woman who shines. Gold can be polished, but foundations must be strong. Choose character over beauty. Choose integrity over charm. Choose a woman who will grow with you, not just a woman who will decorate your life." He sat down heavily in his chair. The leather was worn from years of use. The desk was scarred with the marks of time and stress and countless business deals, but it was his. It was real. What good was all of this empire if he could not trust the people in his life? What was the point of having everything if he had no one to share it with? Isabella was beautiful, no doubt about it. Every man envied him when he was with her, but her affection shifted with the tides of luxury and attention. When the gifts stopped coming, so did her tenderness. When he was not available to take her to the right restaurants and the right clubs and the right events where photographers gathered, her interest seemed to diminish noticeably. Victor had noticed that her texts became less frequent, her calls became shorter. She did not love him, she loved what he represented, she loved what he could give her. She loved the lifestyle and the status and the ability to post her glamorous life on social media for thousands of followers to envy. Veronica was brilliant and efficient and capable of doing almost anything he asked of her. She was sharp, ambitious, driven. She worked long hours. She made his life easier in countless ways. But she was overly ambitious in ways that concerned him. He had once overheard her at a company gala talking to a friend. She had said, "If I play my cards right, I could become Mrs. Ashford." That sentence had lingered with him like a stain on a white shirt. That sentence had revealed her true agenda beneath all her professional smiles and efficient work. He was not a person to her. He was a rung on a ladder, a step towards success, a means to an end. Then there was Isabel, quiet, diligent, faithful Isabel. She barely spoke unless he spoke to her first. She never asked for anything. She never demanded anything. She never complained about the long hours or the demanding work. She was paid well. She had full benefits. She had security and a roof over her head. And yet she lived with a humility and a grace that did not make sense to him given the conditions of her life and the disparities in their wealth. He had once overheard her talking on the phone in the kitchen late one evening to someone, perhaps a family member or a close friend. She had mentioned that her mother needed surgery. She had said it was expensive, very expensive, the kind of expense that would take her years to save for. She had said she did not know how they would afford it. Her voice had sounded stressed but determined, not defeated, not hopeless, just realistic about her circumstances. Victor had been moved by something in her voice, a strength mixed with vulnerability. So he had found her later that evening and offered to pay for the entire surgery. He had said carefully, "Consider it a bonus. Consider it a gift from your employer to someone who has worked hard and deserves support." But she had refused, point blank. No hesitation, no wavering, no reconsidering. "It is not your responsibility, sir. I will manage. I will figure out a way." Her words had been firm but kind, not angry, not ungrateful, just honest. Who refuses an offer like that? Who turns down the solution to a major problem? Who chooses struggle over acceptance? who chooses to shoulder a burden alone when help is being offered freely. Victor stared at three names he had written on a notepad in front of him. Isabella, Veronica, Isabel. Three women, three different roles in his life, three different possibilities, three different unknowns. His eyes narrowed with determination. A question formed in his mind, a question that he could not stop thinking about. What if he could find out truly what they cared about without asking them directly? What if he could strip away all the performance and all the pretense and see their core? What if he could observe them in a state of freedom and see what they would do when they thought no one was watching? What if he could give them resources without restrictions and see where those resources went? What would they choose? What would they prioritize? What would their choices reveal about who they really were on the inside? He tapped a pen against the desk rhythmically, then he picked up his phone and made a call. The number was to his head of private security, a man named James who had worked for him for over a decade. "James, I need you to do something for me," Victor said without preamble. "I need you to do it quietly. No drama, no questions, no complications." His head of private security answered immediately, his voice calm and professional. "Yes, sir. What do you need?" Victor took a breath and explained his plan in detail. "I am going to give three women in my life access to my resources. I am going to give each of them a credit card with no limits and no restrictions. I want full surveillance of their purchases. I want to know their locations at all times. I want to know how they behave when they think no one is watching. I want documentation of their choices. Keep everything discreet. Do not let them know they are being monitored." There was a pause on the other end of the line, but James did not question his boss's judgment. "Understood, sir," James replied. "I will handle everything personally. When do you want this to begin?" "Tomorrow," Victor said. "Give them the cards tomorrow and begin tracking immediately." There was another pause. "Sir, may I ask what this is about?" Victor hesitated. Then he answered honestly. "I need to know the truth, the real truth. Not what people tell me, not what they perform for me, but who they actually are when they think no one is watching." James understood. "Some questions," he said quietly, "can only be answered through observation, not conversation." Victor ended the call and leaned back in his chair. He let a slow breath escape from his lips. This was not about tricking them. He did not want to catch them in a lie or prove them guilty of something. This was about clarity. He was done being surrounded by actors. He was done being deceived. He was done feeling like the only real person in a room full of performances. If there was one woman among the three who saw him as an actual person and not just the shine of his wealth, he had to find her. He had to know. His very peace of mind depended on it. That night, Victor stood on the balcony of his penthouse, staring out at the glittering city below. The lights twinkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet. He thought about what he was about to do. He thought about the ethics of it. He thought about whether this made him a good person or a bad person. But ultimately, he had to know. He had to understand the truth about the people closest to him. He had to find out if anyone in his life actually cared about him as a human being and not just as a source of wealth and status. The next morning, the atmosphere in the penthouse was charged with anticipation and tension. Victor sat in his study, pretending to work on emails and reports, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept glancing at his phone, waiting for the first notification, waiting for the moment when the experiment would begin, when he would start to see the truth. Around noon, his phone buzzed, a text from Veronica. "Sir, I received an unusual gift today, a credit card with no name. Is this legitimate?" Her response was immediate and professional. "Of course," he texted back. "A gift, no strings attached. Use it however you like." There was a long pause before she responded. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate your generosity more than you know." Something in that response felt calculated to Victor, measured, strategic, as if she was already thinking about how to use this gift to her advantage. Later that afternoon, Victor met Isabella at the helipad of the Ashford Tower. She stepped out of a black SUV in a designer jumpsuit, designer sunglasses, designer everything. Her platinum blonde hair shimmered in the bright sunlight. Her phone was in her hand, already recording a video for her social media followers. "Babe," she said, rushing toward him and wrapping her arms around his neck. "Finally. You have been so distant lately. It feels like forever since I have seen you." Victor smiled, though the smile did not reach his eyes. "You have been in Miami for the entire week," she pouted dramatically. "And you did not even come with me. You did not even comment on my new bag." He glanced at the handbag slung over her shoulder. White crocodile skin, gold clasps, hand-stitched details, easily 5 figures, maybe more. "It is nice," he said flatly, his tone revealing nothing. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out the envelope. "I have something for you." Her eyes lit up immediately with a brightness that seemed almost artificial. "What is this?" she asked, though she was already reaching for it. "A gift," he said. "No rules, no restrictions, no expectations. 3 days, spend it however you like, do whatever you want." She opened the envelope and gasped when she saw the black credit card inside. "Are you serious?" "I am completely serious." She squealed loudly and then kissed him on the cheek, though it seemed more like a reflex than a genuine expression of affection. "You are the best, Victor. Really, this is exactly what I needed right now. I knew you would come through for me. I am sure you will," he said quietly, but she barely heard him. She was already spinning toward her car, already dialing her best friend, already making plans. Her mind had clearly moved on from him completely. Victor stood still, watching the SUV disappear into traffic. His chest felt tight. She had not even asked why he was giving her this gift. She had not asked what he wanted or needed. She had not expressed any genuine interest in him, or his motivations, or how he was feeling. She had simply seen an opportunity and taken it without hesitation. She had seen money and responded to it like a trained animal responding to food. The interaction had lasted perhaps 3 minutes. Later that afternoon, around 3 o'clock, Victor was in his office reviewing contracts when Veronica walked briskly into the room. Her dark red heels echoed through the hallway with each confident step. She carried her tablet as always, her constant companion. Her suit was perfectly tailored to her frame. Her makeup was flawless and professional. Her jewelry was minimalist and expensive, selected to convey power without ostentation. "Victor," she said, stepping into his office with her usual professional demeanor that never wavered, "I wanted to check in about the Shanghai expansion. We have some questions from the development team about the timeline and the investment structure." He nodded and listened as she briefed him on various business matters. She was efficient and knowledgeable and capable. Then, after about 15 minutes of business discussion, he reached into the drawer beside him and handed her the second envelope. She raised an eyebrow in confusion. "What is this?" she asked, her professional expression not changing. "A gift for your hard work," he said carefully. "Unlimited credit for 3 days. You can spend it however you want. No restrictions, no judgment." Veronica hesitated for a moment, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she was calculating something. Then her face softened into a practiced smile that was warm but also somehow clinical. "That is very generous," she said. "Very generous indeed. You have worked incredibly hard for this company. You deserve it," Victor replied, watching her carefully to see if there was any genuine emotion in her response. She nodded slowly, her mind clearly already working on her strategy. "Thank you, Victor, truly. I will make good use of this gift." There was a glint in her eyes, though, something calculating and measured and strategic. As she left the office, she began tapping away on her phone, already making plans. Her fingers flew across the screen with purpose. Within an hour, Victor's phone buzzed with the first update from James. "Veronica has booked a luxury suite at the Peninsula Hotel, a 5-star resort known for its exclusive clientele and celebrity guests. She has scheduled multiple spa treatments, including a facial, massage, and full-body treatment. She has also booked a wine-tasting dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant." The purchases began almost immediately. Designer heels from a boutique that only accepted clients by referral, a limited edition perfume from a French luxury house, a reservation for a rooftop cocktail mixer known for its exclusive clientele and high-profile business people. Victor remembered something she had once told him. Make connections. It is not about the money. It is about the rooms, about who you know, about which doors open when you knock, about the power that comes from being in the right place at the right time. Now he would see which room she would walk into when given the key. He would see if she would use this opportunity to network her way toward what she really wanted. Then there was Isabel. Victor had given her the envelope that morning, handing it to her personally in the kitchen. Isabel found the envelope on the kitchen counter where he had left it before she arrived at work. It was resting beside her morning task list with a note written in Victor's handwriting that was careful and deliberate. This is for you, Isabel. No strings attached, no expectations, no demands. Spend it however you want. You deserve it. Do something good for yourself for once. V. She stared at the envelope for a very long time before opening it. Her brows furrowed as she examined the black credit card inside with confusion and concern. She held it like it might break. She turned it over in her hands several times, examining it from every angle. Then she walked to Victor's study, knocked lightly on the door with her characteristic gentle tap. "Come in," he said from behind his desk. She stepped inside, holding the envelope delicately between her fingers as if it were something sacred or dangerous. "Mr. Ashford, I think this was left by mistake. There must be some confusion." Victor looked up from his desk and studied her carefully. "No mistake. It is for you. But, sir, I do not understand. Did I do something wrong? Has my work been unsatisfactory? Did I miss something or make an error?" He chuckled softly at her immediate assumption that she had done something wrong. "No, you have done everything right. More than right. You have done everything perfectly. I just wanted to say thank you. You work hard every day. You work harder than you should have to work. Take a few days. Do something for yourself. Go live a little. Go experience something new." Her eyes met his for the briefest moment. Deep brown, sincere, a little afraid, uncertain. She looked like someone who had never been given anything freely before. Like someone who was suspicious of gifts because gifts always came with a price or an expectation. Then she nodded slowly. "All right. Thank you. I will try." She turned and walked away quietly, the envelope still unopened in her hands. Victor sat back and watched the door after she closed it softly. Something in her hesitation and her reaction struck him deeply and profoundly. Unlike Isabella or Veronica, Isabel did not see the card as an opportunity waiting to be seized. She did not see it as a key to unlock her dreams or her ambitions. She seemed to see it as a burden, as an obligation, as something she did not deserve or was not worthy of accepting. That perhaps was the most revealing sign of all. That initial instinct to refuse, that immediate belief that she was not entitled to good things. That night, James called him with the first batch of updates from the surveillance system. Victor sat in the darkness of his study, the phone pressed to his ear as James delivered the information in his usual clinical and detached manner. "Isabella spent $32,000 today," James reported without emotion. "Mostly luxury boutiques and jewelry stores. She purchased
Look
7
at
designer
this!
outfits,
I had the
3
best
pairs
day
of shoes,
ever.
a diamond bracelet, 2 handbags. She also rented a yacht for a private party tomorrow evening. The yacht rental alone was $20,000. She has invited approximately 40 people, mostly influencers and social media personalities." Victor's jaw tightened. "Veronica booked a photo shoot for herself with a celebrity stylist," James continued, his voice remaining level. "She has also scheduled a networking brunch with several of your competitors." "Expected," Victor murmured. "She is strategic. Everything she does is calculated." "And Isabel?" James paused. "What about her?" Victor asked, leaning forward slightly. "Isabel bought groceries," James said simply. "What do you mean, she bought groceries?" Victor asked. "She went to a neighborhood grocery store. She purchased rice, beans, canned goods, a small bottle of olive oil, and some fresh bread. She also bought a bouquet of daisies. The total was $87. She has barely used 1% of the available credit," James confirmed. The rest of the funds remain untouched. There was a long silence on the line. Victor felt his throat tighten with emotion. He was not sure what he was feeling. It was a mixture of things, disappointment perhaps, but also something else, something that felt like recognition, like finally seeing something true and real in a world of performance and pretense. "Thank you, James. Keep me posted," Victor said quietly. He ended the call and remained still for a long moment. Outside, the night deepened. The city sparkled and glowed with lights. The noise of traffic and life continued below. But all he could think about was the smallest act, the quietest gesture. No flashy dresses, no spa retreats, no clinking glasses over rooftop views, no strategy. Just a woman with a humble spirit buying simple groceries, buying daisies for beauty. That spoke volumes about her priorities and her heart. As the week progressed, the surveillance reports became more revealing and more telling. Isabella's yacht party became the talk of social media. She posted hundreds of photos, videos of herself dancing in designer clothes, videos of the sunset over the water, videos of champagne being poured. None of the videos showed her actually connecting with anyone. None of them showed genuine conversation or laughter shared with friends. They were all performance, all carefully curated for maximum impact on her followers. By the end of day 3, she had spent $86,000 and she had texted Victor exactly 0 times. Veronica's strategy was more subtle but equally revealing. She attended the networking events and the spa treatments and the wine tastings. She was photographed at the right places with the right people. She began following several of the executives she met on social media. She sent them connection requests on LinkedIn with carefully worded messages. She posted on LinkedIn about her experience at the exclusive events, mentioning her proximity to major deals and insider information. By day 3, she had spent approximately $40,000, and every cent of it was an investment in her personal brand and her climbing ambitions. Isabel, on the other hand, did something completely unexpected by day 3. She went to the neighborhood grocery store again and paid cash for more food. She visited a local hospital and spoke quietly to the front desk staff about a neighbor's medical bills. Then she handed over the credit card and paid off the outstanding charges. No announcement, no selfie, no social media post, just a quiet donation from a woman who barely made enough to support herself. Later that same day, she visited the old stone orphanage on 6th Street, the building that Victor had driven past countless times. The building with peeling paint and a rusted gate in a small playground with broken equipment. She brought books, art supplies, fruit, toys, clothing in various children's sizes. One of the final images from James's team showed her seated on the floor in the main room with 3 children around her. One of them had curled up and fallen asleep in her lap while she gently patted his back and whispered soft, comforting words. She was singing to him quietly, a lullaby in another language, perhaps the language of her childhood, perhaps the language her own mother had sung to her when she was young. Victor's throat tightened when he saw that final image. She did not know she was being watched. She was not playing a role. She was not performing for anyone. She was just being herself, being fully, authentically, completely herself. And her entire week of spending had cost less than 1 pair of Isabella's earrings, less than 1 networking dinner for Veronica, less than the tip Isabella had given the yacht captain. That evening, Victor stood on the balcony of his penthouse, an untouched glass of scotch in his hand, watching the stars, or maybe just the city lights pretending to be stars. He thought of the contrast, the noise of Isabella's yacht party echoing across the water, flashbulbs, ego, self-promotion, people with cameras capturing every moment. He thought of Veronica, sharp, strategic, always in control, always climbing, always calculating the next move, always willing to step on others to reach the next rung of the ladder. And he thought of Isabel, simple Isabel, kind Isabel, feeding others without expectation of return, healing debts that were not hers to heal, showing up quietly in the places where the world had turned its back, where the hurting gathered, where the forgotten lived their lives in darkness. He had given them each the same chance, the same resources, the same freedom. and each had revealed everything about who they truly were. It was not about money. It had never been about money. It was about character. It was about integrity. It was about what you did when no one was watching. The masks had fallen. The performances had ended. Now came the hard part, the part where he had to decide what to do with the truth he had uncovered. The part where he had to face what lay beneath the surfaces of these three women's lives. The dining room was set for 4, but only 3 places had been filled with care. The crystal chandelier hung above the long walnut table, casting a soft golden light on glistening silverware and pristine white plates rimmed in gold and silver. The air smelled faintly of sandalwood and aged wine. Fresh flowers arranged by a professional florist decorated the center of the table. Victor sat at the head of the table wearing a charcoal gray suit without a tie. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing his vulnerability. His hands rested on the table. He looked calm on the surface, but the storm inside him was loud and turbulent and chaotic. Across from him sat Isabella in a fitted red dress that shimmered as she moved, catching the light with every motion. Her makeup was immaculate and flawless. Her hair was sleek and perfect, and styled by an expensive salon. Her eyes were bored, already looking past him towards something more interesting. Her expression suggested she would rather be anywhere else. To her left, Veronica in a black pantsuit with sharp lines and a silver brooch that glinted under the chandelier light. She sat straight-backed, poised, calculating, already assessing the situation and considering her angle. To Victor's right, Isabel in a soft cream blouse and a long floral skirt that she had owned for years. She looked like she did not belong there in this grand and expensive setting. She knew it. Her shoulders were slightly hunched. Her hands rested awkwardly in her lap, where she was nervously rubbing her fingers together. She had barely touched the water in front of her. She looked terrified, like she was waiting to be punished for something. A 5th chair sat empty. Victor had not invited anyone else. There was no other guest. The room was quiet, too quiet. The tension hung heavy like a physical thing that all of them could feel but no one wanted to acknowledge, until Isabella let out a long sigh that filled the silence. "So," she said, twirling her wine glass between her fingers with practiced elegance, "what is the occasion? You said this was important. You said we all needed to talk. You sounded very serious on the phone." "Yes," Victor replied, his voice low and even and controlled. "It is important. Very important, actually." Isabel glanced at him briefly, then looked down at her untouched plate again. Her anxiety seemed to be growing by the second. Veronica leaned in slightly, her eyes narrowing as she tried to determine what this was about and how she could best respond. She was already formulating strategies, already thinking about how to control the narrative. "Lana," Isabella scoffed, using a nickname that only she had ever called him. "Sounds serious. Sounds dramatic." Victor met her gaze and held it. "It is." He paused for a moment, taking in each of their faces. The disinterest on Isabella's face, the anticipation and strategic calculation on Veronica's face, the anxiety and fear on Isabel's face. Then he spoke carefully and deliberately. "3 days ago, I gave each of you a card. No rules, no limits, no restrictions. I told you it was a gift. And in a way it was, but it was also a test." The room went still. The air seemed to stop moving. Isabella's smile faded completely from her face. Veronica tilted her head, her expression becoming guarded. Isabel stopped breathing. Her face went pale. Victor continued, his voice never wavering. "I needed to know the truth, not from what you tell me, not from what you say to my face, not from the performances you put on, from what you do when you think no one is watching, from your choices when you had complete freedom, from your actions when accountability was impossible." The room remained silent. The weight of his words settled on all of them like snow falling on a winter landscape. "What the hell does that mean?" Isabella asked, her tone turning sharp and defensive. Her body tensed. "It means," he said slowly, "I watched. I listened. I learned." Isabel shifted in her seat, her anxiety becoming visible now. Her hands were shaking, her eyes filled with tears. The tension in the room grew thick and suffocating and almost impossible to breathe through. Victor turned to her. His expression remained calm. "Veronica," he said, "you were different. You did not throw parties. You did not waste money on frivolous things, but you used the card to elevate yourself. You attended business mixers and networking events. You scheduled meetings with executives I have never introduced you to. You sold the idea that you were my partner when you are not. You positioned yourself as my confidante and my closest advisor. You leveraged our professional relationship for personal gain." Her eyes narrowed, her jaw clenched. "Ambition is a crime now?" "No," he said quietly, "but deception is, and you were not investing in us. You were not spending time with me or thinking about what would benefit both of us. You were investing in your exit strategy. You were networking your way out of my company, out of my life. I have given you 5 years of my life," she said, her voice growing tense and emotional. "I have worked around the clock. I have sacrificed my personal time. I have saved you from disasters, the press relations, the scandals, the problems that would have destroyed your reputation. You are bored." "I know," Victor said, "and I am grateful, truly, but loyalty does not give you license to manipulate. Trust does not give you permission to betray. Partnership does not mean you get to play the long game at someone else's expense." She rose slowly, adjusting her blazer with deliberate movements. Her expression hardened. "I see what this is. What is it?" "You have decided she is the saint," Veronica said, nodding toward Isabel with a bitter laugh. "The maid with a golden heart. This is some twisted Cinderella fantasy, is it not? You are playing out some savior complex. You are bored with successful women, and so you have decided that the poor, humble housekeeper is the one who truly understands you." Isabel froze, her eyes wide. "Veronica," Victor began, but she cut him off sharply. "No, it is fine. I just wish you had the guts to tell me you were done instead of staging a performance, instead of playing with all of us like we were characters in your little experiment. Good luck with your experiment. Good luck with your fantasy. I hope you enjoy living out your Cinderella dreams." She walked out more gracefully than Isabella had, but the door still closed like a gunshot. It closed with power and finality. Victor sat alone at the table for a long moment. The food had grown cold. The wine had become bitter. The flowers that had looked so beautiful at the beginning of the meal now seemed to mock him with their false cheerfulness. He had known this would be difficult, but the reality was harder than anything he had anticipated. He turned slowly toward Isabel, who had not moved. She had not eaten. She had not spoken. She had barely breathed the entire time. "I am sorry you had to witness that," he said gently. Isabel's voice was barely a whisper. It shook with emotion. I did not know what this was. I thought maybe I was being let go. I thought maybe I had made a mistake at work. Did I do something wrong?" Victor blinked. "Why would you think that?" he asked. She swallowed hard. Her voice was barely audible. "Because," she hesitated, searching for the right words, "you have never invited me to this part of your world. You have never included me in your social life. And suddenly there was money. A dinner with your girlfriend and your assistant. Both women I have only ever seen from a distance. I thought maybe it was a goodbye. I thought maybe you were preparing to let me go. I thought this was how you do these things. I thought maybe you felt sorry for me and wanted to let me down gently." He shook his head slowly. "Isabel, it was a beginning." She looked up at him, eyes uncertain and confused. "How can it be a beginning? I am just your housekeeper. I do not—" Isabel felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not try to stop them. She let them fall, let them show her vulnerability. "I am afraid," she whispered. "I am afraid of losing this. I am afraid of failing you. I am afraid that I will not be enough. I am afraid that you will realize that I am nobody, that I am just a woman from nothing who worked in your house." "No," he said firmly. "You are everything. You have always been everything. I have just been blind, too caught up in the wrong things, too distracted by the surface and the performance. You have been here the entire time, constant, real, true, and I have been too foolish to see it until I had to strip away all the pretense and watch what people would do when they thought no one was looking." Isabel looked up at him. Their eyes met across the table. For the first time, Victor was not looking at her as an employee. He was seeing her as a woman, as a person, as someone worthy of his attention and his care and his love. There was no hunger in his gaze, just admiration, just hope, just the beginning of something that neither of them had expected but both of them desperately needed. That night, after the dinner had ended and the staff had cleaned up the remains of the meal, Victor did not return to his penthouse study as he usually did. Instead, he found himself walking down the hallway toward the servants' quarters, an area of the house he rarely ventured into, not because he saw it as beneath him or improper, but because it had simply never occurred to him to cross that line, lines drawn by society and by custom and by years of hierarchy, but lines, he was beginning to realize, had always been drawn in the wrong places. They had been drawn by people who were afraid, afraid of connection, afraid of what might happen if they stopped seeing others through the lens of their utility and instead saw them as human beings. He reached the end of the hall. Her door was closed, but the light inside was on. He could see it glowing beneath the doorframe. He hesitated for a long moment. What right did he have to go there? What gave him permission to cross this boundary? But then he remembered what she had said. I do not belong there, and he had corrected her. Yes, you do. And so by that logic, did he not also belong here? Did they not both deserve to be in the same spaces? Did they not both deserve to have their worlds overlap? He raised his hand and knocked twice. The sound was gentle, respectful, not demanding, not commanding, just a simple request for entry. There was a pause, then the soft sound of footsteps approaching the door. The door opened slowly. Isabel stood there. Her floral skirt had been replaced by plain cotton pajama pants and a loose t-shirt. Her hair was down, slightly toweled from where she had been running her fingers through it anxiously. Her face was free of makeup. She looked younger, tired, real, more beautiful than she had ever looked in any elegant dress or expensive jewelry. Mr. Ashford, she said, her voice quiet but steady. He gave a small smile. Peter, please, just Peter. She nodded, stepping aside slightly to allow him passage. Do you need something? She asked. Is something wrong? No, he said. I mean, yes, I need to talk. I need to say things that I should have said a long time ago. May I? Isabel looked uncertain, but she nodded and stepped back. Of course, please, come in. He entered the small room, shutting the door softly behind him. It was modest, neat, tidy, cozy, personal in ways that his entire penthouse was not. A bookshelf filled with worn novels that she had read and reread so many times the spines were cracked. A framed photo of an older woman, her mother perhaps. A vase of fresh daisies on the desk, the same ones he had seen her buy at the grocery store. The same flowers she had used her gift to purchase. A small lamp cast a warm glow. The bed was neatly made with a simple quilt. A window looked out onto the garden below. Victor took it all in quietly. He noticed everything, the care she had taken, the beauty she had created in such a small space. You keep it beautiful in here, he said. Isabel gave a soft smile that did not quite reach her eyes. She was still nervous, still unsure. It is the only space that is really mine. The only place where I get to make all the decisions. The only place where I do not have to follow someone else's rules or expectations. Then he sat gently on the edge of a small love seat near the window. She remained standing, uncertain whether she should sit, whether she should be at ease or maintain her professional distance. I owe you an apology, Victor began, his voice serious and sincere. Isabel's brow furrowed with confusion. Why? She asked. For dragging you into all of this. For putting you in the middle of a test. For using you to help me figure out the truth about other people. For watching you like you were some kind of subject in an experiment. For violating your privacy and your trust. You did not hurt me, she said softly, taking a step closer. But I used you, he replied. Not just you, all of you. I was trying to protect myself. I was afraid of being hurt and deceived, and in doing so I manipulated people, even the good ones, even you. She walked slowly to the desk and sat on the chair facing him. I do not blame you, she said gently. You are surrounded by people who want what you have, not who you are. That must be exhausting, isolating, lonely beyond measure. He chuckled bitterly. You have no idea. There was a silence between them, not awkward, not uncomfortable, just unspoken. A comfortable space filled with understanding. Then Isabel said, "You asked me why I did not use the card for myself." Victor looked up at her. "I wanted to," she admitted. Her voice was soft and vulnerable. "I thought about getting my first real dress. Something designer. Something beautiful. I have never owned anything like that. I have worn hand-me-downs my entire life. I imagined walking into a store and picking out something beautiful just because I could. I imagined how it would feel, how people would look at me differently. I imagined having something that was truly mine, something expensive, something that showed that I was worthy of nice things." He watched her quietly, her honesty, her vulnerability, her willingness to admit her desires without shame. "But then I passed the grocery store and remembered my neighbor's daughter. She has been skipping meals to help her mother afford medicine. She is only 12 years old. And I saw an old man on the street holding a sign that said, 'I just want to be warm tonight.' I could not ignore them. Not when I had the chance to help, not when I had resources they desperately needed." "You did not think twice?" he asked. "I did," she said honestly. "I thought about it. I wanted that dress so badly. I could feel the weight of it in my hands already. I could imagine the way the fabric would feel against my skin. I could imagine how confident I would feel wearing it. But I thought, what if this card disappeared tomorrow? What if this was all a dream and I woke up and it was gone? What would I want to remember? That I bought a dress, that I had one nice thing, or that I made someone feel like they mattered, that I gave someone a chance, that I saved a child from hunger or an old man from freezing?" Victor felt something shift inside him, like a door quietly unlocking, a door that had been closed for so long he had forgotten it existed. "No one has ever said that to me," he whispered. "What do you mean?" she asked. He stood and walked to the window. "I have built everything from the ground up," he said. "Every startup, every company, every opportunity, every success. But not a single person in my life has ever told me that I mattered. Not as a person, not just what I gave, what I owned, what I could do for them. That is all anyone has ever wanted from me: utility, value, access, power." He turned to face her. "You did all that for strangers with no expectation, no cameras, no attention, no reward, just because you could, just because it was right." She looked down, embarrassed by the intensity of his gaze and his words. "That is how my mother raised me," she said quietly. "We did not have much. We barely had enough. But she used to say, 'Kindness does not need a reason. It just needs a heart willing to give. It just needs someone brave enough to care about people other than themselves.'" He stepped closer to her. He could smell her shampoo, something simple and clean. "And you have that heart, Isabel," he said. She looked up at him. Their eyes met. They stood in silence for a long beat, neither moving, neither breaking the gaze. The moment felt suspended, like time had stopped and only the two of them existed in this small room. Then he spoke. "Why are you really here, Victor?" she asked, her voice trembling. He took a breath. "Because I am tired of pretending," he said. "Tired of performing?" she asked. "Tired of being with people who only see my bank account, tired of dating women who are using me, tired of working with people who are only loyal because it benefits them, tired of being alone in a room full of people, tired of feeling like the most powerful man in the world and the most powerless at the same time. And what do you see when you look at me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. He reached out slowly, gently. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. His touch was tender and careful. "I see peace. I see honesty. I see someone who does not want anything from me, except maybe to be seen back, to be understood, to be known." Isabel's eyes welled with tears, but she did not look away. "I am afraid," she admitted. "I am afraid of losing this. I am afraid of failing you. I am afraid that I will not be enough. I am afraid that you will realize that I am nobody, that I am just a woman from nothing who worked in your house." "No," he said firmly. "You are everything. You have always been everything. I have just been blind, too caught up in the wrong things, too distracted by the surface and the performance and the noise of the world. You have been here the entire time, constant, real, true, and I have been too foolish to see it until I had to strip away all the pretense and watch what people would do when they thought no one was looking. I know what I want now. I know what matters, and it is you." She did not respond. She did not have to. In that tiny room tucked away in a mansion filled with silence and emptiness, something profound passed between them, an understanding, a recognition, a connection that went deeper than any relationship Victor had ever experienced. Fragile but real, not based on status or appearances or utility, but on shared solitude, not romance yet, but the first breath of it. The beginning of something genuine and true that would grow and develop and eventually transform both of their lives completely. Rain tapped softly against the glass as autumn settled over the city. The once lush trees along the estate's grounds had begun to shed their golden leaves. Inside, the mansion did not feel quite as quiet anymore. The echo had changed. The energy had shifted. Isabel stayed at the penthouse more and more. At first, she maintained her job as a housekeeper out of necessity and out of not wanting to presume. But Victor had other ideas. On a Saturday morning, about 2 weeks after the confrontation at dinner, he found her in the kitchen preparing breakfast for both of them. "Come with me," he said gently, taking her hand. She looked confused but followed him to his study. He had prepared documents, papers, an official offer, an opportunity. "I want you to take a leave of absence from housekeeping," he said. "I want to invest in your education. There is a program at the university. It is for adults who want to continue their education. You could study business management. You could study nonprofit administration. You could study anything that interests you. I will pay for all of it." Isabel shook her head. "No, I cannot. That is too much. I do not even have my high school diploma. I dropped out to work. I dropped out to help support my family after my father died." Victor took her hands. "And that is exactly why you should do this. You have more life experience and wisdom than most people who have degrees hanging on their walls. Let me help you. Let us build something together." He paused. "And I want you to do something else. I want you to help me with my foundation, my philanthropic work. I have been giving away money for years, but I have been doing it wrong. I have been throwing money at problems without understanding them, without asking what people actually need. I want you to be the director. I want your vision guiding the work. I want to transform my foundation into something meaningful, something real, something that actually helps people the way you have helped people all your life." She cried when she said yes. She cried because no one had ever believed in her before. No one had ever seen potential in her. No one had ever asked her what she wanted or offered to help her achieve her dreams. Over the next few months, Victor hired a tutor for her, someone who specialized in helping adult learners prepare for their GED. She worked with dedication and focus. She stayed up late after the tutor left, practicing problems. She read books that the tutor recommended. She asked questions. She was hungry to learn, hungry to grow. At the same time, she began working with Victor at the foundation office. A space that had once been sterile and corporate and impersonal was slowly transformed by her touch. She brought pictures and plants. She created a more welcoming environment. She began meeting with people in the communities they served. She spent time in the neighborhoods where they were trying to make a difference. She asked questions. She listened. She learned the real stories behind the statistics. By the time she took her GED exam, Isabel had transformed. Not physically, though she was healthier and happier and glowed with a kind of light that had not been there before. She had gained confidence. She had expanded her worldview. She had learned skills and knowledge that opened doors she never knew existed. When the results came back, she had not just passed. She had scored in the 95th percentile, top of her class in the prep program. Victor had celebrated with her, but she had been humble about it. "It is just a test," she had said. "No," he had replied. "It is proof of what I have always known, that you are remarkable." During this same period, the mansion continued to change. Not physically, though gradually Victor made some modifications. He softened the aesthetic. He brought in more warm colors and natural materials. He removed some of the cold, sterile art and replaced it with pieces that actually moved him. He added more comfortable furniture. He created spaces that felt lived in rather than displayed. One evening, as autumn turned to winter, Victor and Isabel sat together on the porch despite the cold. They had wrapped themselves in a shared blanket, a cup of tea in each of their hands. The warmth of the liquid kept their fingers from getting too cold. Snow had begun to fall, light and gentle, covering the garden in white. Victor watched Isabel as she stared into the darkness beyond the porch lights. "Can I ask you something?" he said. She turned to him. "Of course. Do you ever regret it? Do you ever wish things had gone differently? Do you ever think about all the other lives you could have lived?" She smiled. "Not for a second. I think about my old life sometimes. I remember what it was like, how hard it was, how tired I was, how I had no hope for anything better. But regret? No. How could I regret ending up here? How could I regret meeting you? How could I regret being seen and believed in for the first time in my life?" He took her hand. "I love you, Isabel. I know I do not say it every day, but I need you to know that it is the truest thing I feel, the most real thing I have ever experienced." She squeezed his hand. "I love you too, and I am grateful for the life you have given me. But more than that, I am grateful for the person you have become. I watched you before all of this. I noticed you even when you did not notice me. I saw a man who had everything and nothing at the same time. I saw someone who was searching for something he could not name. I am just glad I got to be part of your journey. I am just glad I got to help you find your way home." He kissed her forehead. "And you always will be," he said. "Always." As winter deepened, Victor asked Isabel to move into the main part of the house. Not as a housekeeper anymore, not as a guest, but as his equal, as his partner in life. She hesitated at first. The main part of the house was so grand and so expensive and so intimidating. But Victor explained to her something important. "This is not just my house anymore. This is our house. This is our home. I want to share every part of it with you, every corner, every room, every space." So she moved in. She brought her few personal belongings, the photograph of her mother, the worn novels, the small things that had meant so much to her in her previous life. Victor had taken her to the walk-in wardrobe that once belonged to a previous girlfriend, now cleared out entirely, repainted and transformed into something simpler. Not luxurious in a showy way, just intentional and comfortable and meant to reflect her personality. In front of her was a mirror. Behind her, a row of clothes that had been selected with her input, not expensive designer pieces meant to impress, but quality pieces meant to reflect the woman she was becoming, the woman she had always been. Navy blazers, white blouses, beautiful dresses in soft colors, a leather jacket, professional pieces that she could wear to the foundation office, casual pieces that she could wear around the house, everything selected together, not for her, but with her. She adjusted the lapel of a navy blue blazer, a far cry from the cotton uniform she had worn for so long. It fit perfectly, modest, elegant, powerful. She was not sure if she liked it or if she was just terrified that she did, if she was ready to step into this new version of herself, if she was worthy of it. Downstairs, Victor stood at the kitchen island, slicing limes with a focus and a presence that had never been there before. He was learning to cook, learning to be present in the mundane moments of life. The house staff had been reduced by half per his request, not fired, just shifted, given new roles, more humane hours. "Peter," Isabel said softly as she entered the kitchen. Her voice still held that quiet note of uncertainty, like someone afraid to wake a sleeping giant, but it also held something new, a confidence that was beginning to grow. He looked up from the limes and for a moment did not say anything. His eyes trailed slowly from her shoulders to her shoes, but there was no hunger in his gaze, just admiration, just approval, just love. "You look capable," he said, smiling. She raised an eyebrow. "That is a compliment," he laughed. "Coming from me, that is high praise. A compliment about capability rather than appearance, a recognition of her competence, her strength, her ability to handle whatever came her way." Isabel smiled, still not used to being smiled at in this house, still not used to being treated as an equal. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, fiddling with the sleeve of the blazer. "Bringing me to the investor luncheon. I will stand out. Everyone will know that I do not belong there. Everyone will see right through me." "Good," he replied, placing the knife down and moving toward her. "Let them see what real looks like. Let them see what integrity and kindness and authenticity look like in a world of performance and pretense." The investor luncheon was held at a private art gallery downtown. Marble floors, abstract paintings, cold shrimp cocktail, $200 wine glasses, the kind of place where everyone was trying to be someone other than who they actually were. Victor entered with Isabel by his side. No security detail, no red carpet treatment. Just two people walking shoulder to shoulder, side by side, equal partners. As expected, the room reacted subtly, the way rich rooms do when they encounter something unexpected. A glance here, a whispered question there, a few forced smiles, a few polite nods. Veronica was there too, speaking with a small group of venture capital managers. She locked eyes with Victor briefly. Her gaze flicked to Isabel, then away. There was no triumph in her look, no judgment, just acknowledgement that she had been wrong and that Victor had made his choice. "Keep your head high," Victor murmured to Isabel as they moved through the room. "You do not owe anyone here anything." Isabel nodded and followed his lead, drawing strength from his presence. She did not speak much that afternoon, only when asked directly. She did not pretend to understand stock valuations or private equity structures. She did not try to talk about things she did not know about. But when she spoke about the literacy programs she had been helping to fund, about the after-school meals she wanted to expand, about the housing initiatives she was developing, people listened. It was not what she said, it was how she said it, with conviction, without agenda, with genuine passion for helping others and making a difference. Later that evening in the car on the way home, Victor turned to her and took her hand. "You were perfect," he said. Isabel exhaled a long breath she had not realized she was holding. "I was terrified," she admitted. "You did not show it." "I did not belong there," she said quietly. He reached over and squeezed her hand gently. "You belonged more than anyone, more than the people in expensive suits making empty deals, more than the women in diamond jewelry thinking only of themselves. You belonged because you were the only person in that room who was being completely and authentically yourself." Over the next several weeks and months, their rhythm found itself. They established patterns, they created routines. Every morning, Isabel met with an advisor Victor had hired, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, who had earned her PhD in non-profit management and had worked in the field for 20 years, not to change Isabel, but to equip her. Business literacy, accounting basics, leadership training, grant writing, strategic planning, mentorship in the true sense, understanding not just what to do but why you do it and how to do it with integrity and care. She resisted at first. In the beginning she felt like an imposter in these meetings, but Victor insisted gently. "You are already a leader," he said. "I am just giving you better tools. You already know how to inspire people. You already know how to motivate and organize and make things happen. Now you will understand the business side as well." Isabel progressed through the mentoring with humility and hunger. She took notes, she asked questions, she did her homework between meetings. By the end of 6 months, she was ready to formalize her role at the foundation. She began spending her afternoons at the shelter she had first started volunteering at all those years ago, now anonymously funded by Victor's foundation. But now Isabel had decision-making power. She was not folding laundry anymore, though she would still fold it if needed. She was not just helping out, she was managing budgets, hiring staff, organizing services, training volunteers, making strategic decisions about how to allocate resources, making sure that the work actually addressed the real needs of the community rather than just the perceived needs of donors. At night, after the work was done, they shared quiet dinners, sometimes at expensive restaurants, but more often at home. No staff, no catering, often just takeout or simple meals. Isabel prepared herself because she enjoyed it, because it was meditative, because it was a way to care for him through her hands. Sometimes they sat in silence, reading side by side on the couch. Sometimes they debated ideas and philosophy. Sometimes they laughed until Isabel had to clutch her stomach and Victor had tears streaming down his face from the joy of it. The mansion changed slowly but noticeably, not physically in dramatic ways, but atmospherically. Rooms that had been cold and decorative began to feel lived in. The study now had a second reading chair, a space that was clearly used. The kitchen had handwritten grocery lists on the fridge, the kind of lists that showed two people building a life together. The garden had a corner where Isabel was planting herbs, rosemary, basil, thyme, and Victor, though comically bad at gardening, always joined her on weekends, getting dirt under his fingernails, learning from her patient instruction, finding joy in the simple act of growing something together. One day after a storm had rolled through the night before, leaving the world washed clean and new, Isabel found Victor standing under the dripping pergola in the garden, watching the dawn break. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. She stepped beside him, holding 2 mugs of coffee in her hands. She handed him one without speaking. They stood together in silence for a long moment, listening to the birds sing, listening to the water drip from the leaves, listening to the sound of the world coming alive after sleep. "What are you thinking?" she asked gently. He looked at her with eyes that were full of peace. "I used to want to be remembered for building an empire," he said, "for making my mark on the world through technology and innovation and business success. I used to think that was what mattered. That was how you measured a life. Now I just want to be remembered by the person I chose to build with. Now I just want to be remembered as someone who loved you, who saw you, who chose you every single day." Isabel looked away shyly. "I am not easy to build with," she said. "I get scared. I still doubt all of this. I still have moments where I think I am going to wake up and this will all have been a dream." "Good," he said, smiling. "Doubt keeps us honest. Fear keeps us humble." "And what keeps us going?" she asked, finally looking back at him. Victor reached out and touched her cheek softly. His hand was warm against her skin. "Love," he said, "but not the kind people sell on magazines. Not the kind that is based on appearance or status or utility. The kind you grow in small moments. The kind that shows up even when the world is not looking. The kind that is built brick by brick through choosing each other. Again and again, every day." She leaned into his touch, and for the first time since they met, not as maid and billionaire, not as employee and employer, not even as 2 strangers in 2 completely different worlds, they stood together as partners, as equals, as 2 people choosing one day at a time to build something real and meaningful and true. Winter turned to spring. The trees that had been bare began to fill out with new leaves. The flowers began to bloom. The garden came alive again. Victor sat in his study one afternoon reviewing documents with Isabel. The foundation had grown. They had hired a staff. They had expanded to multiple locations. They were helping thousands of people, providing education, healthcare, safe housing, job training, everything that Isabel had always dreamed of providing if she ever had the means. But the most significant decision came one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Victor had been quiet all day. Isabel could sense that something was on his mind. Finally, as the sky turned a deep shade of purple and the stars began to emerge, he took her hand. "I have something I want to ask you," he said. His voice was shaking slightly. Her heart began to race. She knew what was coming. She had known for months that this moment would come. She had prepared herself for it, and yet she was terrified. Terrified that something this good could really be hers, that she deserved this kind of happiness. Victor got down on one knee. The gesture was classic. The moment was timeless, but the depth of feeling was entirely unique to them, unique to their story. Isabel, I love you. I have loved you since the moment I truly saw you, and I will love you until the day I die and beyond. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife? Will you build the rest of this life with me? She cried. She nodded. She said yes through her tears. She had gone from carrying blocks on construction sites to being the fiancée of a billionaire. But what made it real for her was not his money or his status. It was his heart. It was the fact that he saw her, really saw her, not just what she could do or what she lacked. It was the fact that he believed in her and wanted to help her achieve her dreams. It was the fact that he loved her for who she was, not what she had or what she could offer him in return. The wedding was planned carefully over the following months. Isabel did not want a huge affair. She did not want to be paraded in front of society as a trophy or a curiosity. So they planned something intimate, family and close friends only. The ceremony would be held in the garden of the mansion, the place where they had both learned to grow something beautiful together. The day of the wedding arrived. The garden was decorated simply but elegantly. White flowers, candles, soft music. Isabel wore a dress that had been made specifically for her. Not by a famous designer, but by a talented woman who had understood Isabel's vision. The dress was white, but not ostentatiously so. It was simple and elegant and reflected Isabel's understated style. Her hair was down, flowing down her back. Her makeup was minimal. She wanted to look like herself, just a more dressed-up version, just a woman ready to commit her life to the person she loved. Victor stood at the end of the aisle in a tailored suit. When he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. He had not expected to cry. But seeing her walk toward him, seeing the woman who had changed his entire life and his understanding of what mattered, was overwhelming. His best man, James, smiled and squeezed his shoulder. When Isabel reached him, they both laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from overwhelming emotion and joy and the sheer improbability of how their lives had unfolded. The ceremony was brief but meaningful. They had written their own vows. Victor's words were simple but profound. I vow to see you every day, to appreciate you, to work alongside you in building a life of meaning and purpose, to remember that you are not a prize to be won but a partner to be cherished, to love you not because of what you have but because of who you are. Isabel's words were equally moving. I vow to be honest with you, to challenge you when necessary, to support your growth and your dreams, to remember that true wealth is not measured in money but in love and integrity, to build a life with you that reflects our values, that makes a difference, that matters. After the ceremony, there was a small reception. Close friends and family gathered in the mansion. They celebrated with food and music and laughter. Isabel's extended family had come, cousins she had not seen in years, her mother's closest friends. Victor's friends were there, people who remembered when Victor had been a young man with dreams but no wisdom. They looked at him now and saw the changes. They saw the man he had become. Softer, more human, more real. Years passed. The world kept spinning. Business deals came and went. Investments grew. Foundations expanded. Initiatives took root and flourished. But one thing never changed. Every night before bed, Isabel tucked their daughter in with a story. And later, another child and another. By the time they had been married 5 years, Victor and Isabel had 3 children, 2 biological children and 1 child they had adopted from the orphanage. A girl named Maya who had lost her parents to illness. A girl who had been waiting for someone to see her, to love her, to choose her. And the stories that Isabel told were always variations on the same theme, a story of a man with everything who gave it all away to find what mattered. a story of a woman with nothing who gave what little she had and changed the world in the process. A story of two people from different worlds who found common ground in kindness and integrity. And when their daughter asked, "Mama, is that story true?" Isabel would smile, leaning close, and whisper, "Yes, baby. It is the truest story I have ever lived. It is the story of your daddy and me." And just outside the door, Victor would listen with tears in his eyes, knowing that for the first time in his life, his empire was not measured in dollars or deals or business expansion. It was measured in the laughter echoing down the hallway, in the soil under Isabel's fingernails from working in the garden, in the drawings on the refrigerator made by small hands, in the stories being passed on, in the love filling every room of a house that had once been empty. This was no longer just a house made of stone and steel and glass. It was a home built with patience and trust, and a kind of love that asked for nothing and gave everything. A home where a woman who had once worked as a housekeeper was now honored as a partner. A home where a billionaire had learned that his greatest achievement was not his business empire, but the family he had built. A home where kindness was rewarded and integrity was valued above all else. The orphanage continued to thrive. The foundation grew to serve thousands of people. Communities were transformed. Lives were changed. But the most important change was the one that happened inside the mansion and inside the hearts of the two people who lived there. Victor and Isabel had built something that money could never buy. They had built a life of purpose, a life of love, a life that mattered. 10 years after they married, Victor stood in his study, the same study where he had once made the decision to test 3 women to find the truth about their character. He picked up the old photograph of his parents that still sat on his desk. He looked at his mother's face. He could almost hear her voice again. "Marry a woman who builds, not just a woman who shines." That is what she had said. And he had listened, perhaps not immediately, but eventually. He had listened. He had chosen well. He heard footsteps on the stairs, the sound of children running and playing. He heard Isabel's voice calling to them, "Keep it down, you will wake your sister." He heard laughter. He stood and walked to the window. Below, he could see Isabel in the garden with Maya, teaching her about plants, teaching her about growth, teaching her about patience and care, and how to build something beautiful from the ground up. She looked up at the window and caught him watching. She smiled, waved. He waved back. In that simple gesture was everything: the recognition, the love, the understanding that they were in this together, that they had chosen each other and would continue to choose each other every single day. Victor went downstairs. He walked into the kitchen where Isabel had set down her tools. She was preparing dinner. She was humming. She was exactly where she wanted to be, doing exactly what she wanted to do, with exactly who she wanted to be with. He came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. She leaned back against him and continued humming. He kissed the top of her head. "I love you," he whispered. "I know," she said with a smile. "I love you too." Thank you so much for watching this entire story all the way to the very end. Thank you for taking this journey with Victor and Isabel. Thank you for witnessing their transformation. If you loved this story and you want me to continue with another story like this, please drop a comment down below right now saying that you loved it. Tell me where you are from and what you thought about this story. Tell me whether you have ever experienced a moment where kindness changed your life. Tell me whether you have ever been the kind of person in someone else's story. Tell me if you believe that true wealth is measured in love and not in money. Also, do not forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you will be the very first to know once the next story is uploaded. Like this video. Share it with someone you love. Share it with someone who desperately needs to hear about the power of kindness and honesty and integrity. Share it with someone who might understand that true wealth is not measured in money, but in the love we share and the impact we make on others. Thank you once again for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in the next story. This has been a journey about transformation, about seeing people for who they really are, and about the power of choosing love over everything else.